1.20 is still believed by many to be focusing around archaeology, and whether archaeology comes in 1.20 or at some point in the future, today I'll be giving some ideas on features that need to be in an archaeology update, or at least features I'd like to see. Everyone who plays Minecraft knows the way to tame a wolf is through bones, but after you tame the wolf, then what do you do with the bones then with the wolf? I mean, sure, you could use bones, grow crops or make bone blocks or something like that, but what if instead, when we actually give a wolf another bone, a tamed wolf another bone, it actually takes you above a fossil? I mean, think about it. It would make sense because dogs, they would love bones, they love digging. What if, much similar to, like, say, dolphins taking you to a treasure or something like that, dogs and wolves could actually take you to the exact right position of a fossil? It would make sense for wolves, it would help players in finding places to do excavations. All around, this idea, it just makes too much sense in my opinion. But if you're not willing to do any excavation underground for fossils, then why not have some above ground fossils, specifically in Mesa Badlands biomes, because obviously you could have a chance of finding, say, like abandoned mine shafts on the surface. So why not have a chance of having some fossils spawn on the surface? Most of them should be like kind of buried like what we see here, but still should be relatively accessible. I guess in some ways it'd be pretty similar to the fossils we find inside of Soul Sand Valleys, but having it this way would just be another way in finding some easily accessible fossils. However, unlike the underground fossils, there's no diamonds, there's no coal, so there's still some reason to go underground. But since you're digging deep and down below the earth, you might be interested in finding some new structures, and I have an idea for one, being a tomb. It almost definitely won't look like this, but this is just a concept. Because at the very end of the tomb, there could be like sort of a coffin-based thing or something like that. Again, don't judge what it looks like, this is just a concept. And if you dig inside the coffin, you'll have one to two outcomes. You could either have a chest filled with a whole bunch of bones, as well as a whole bunch of loot inside of here. Or if you're really unlucky, if you dig inside of here, you'll find an observer with some TNT underneath it, which will eventually, blow you up and kill you. And if you don't like the idea of a tomb, then can we at least all agree that these mob spawners need at least some form of upgrade? Like, it could still have 1 to 2 chests, it could still only have 1 mob spawner, but just the cobblestone box itself, it really needs some form of upgrade. And maybe each mob spawner could be unique. Maybe a spider one could have some cobwebs. Maybe a zombie one can have, I don't know, a zombie head or something in it. And you know what? I'll quickly upgrade this one just to show what we could actually do with it. I mean, just look at this. It took me all of like 30 seconds to build, and it's already looking way better. And it's still Minecrafty, it still feels like it fits in the game. Something like this seriously should be in the game. But if you're looking for an idea that literally everyone hasn't talked about, and you haven't seen my updating desert video, then I think the Desert Temple should have more than just one separate type of a stage of size. And to take inspiration from real life, I think the Desert Temple should have 3 separate stages of size. The smallest one could be the exact same one we have today, so we could still have this one in the game. There could be a medium-sized one, which is maybe 2 or 3 times the size of the normal one. And there could be a large size of Desert Temple, which is absolutely huge with so many types of rooms and hallways and things like that. And again, the large and kind of the medium ones would work in a similar way as the pyramids in the Egyptian Mashup Pack, where when you're inside, it's just an absolute maze of a structure going around it. And I know some people would think, okay, this is kind of an archaeology thing, but it's more focused on the desert. Well, think about it this way. The desert, it's already been updated in 1.20. We already got camels. So really, what's the big harm in adding even more types of desert updates inside of it? And also, if you really think about it, every single major update has had some form of major structure, whether it's a structure being changed or a huge structure being added. Like 1.14, it completely changed villages. 1.16, the Bastard Revenant, Caves and Cliffs, it added the huge, deep, dark, and ancient cities. So why not have another huge major structure in the form of a mega pyramid? And I think a similar thing could happen to the jungle. I'm not even going to call these temples. I mean, they're more jungle shacks, if I'm honest. I mean, just look at them. But we could keep this one so long as we have multiple stages of sizes of jungle temples. Like, imagine having this one, but then having like a slightly bigger one, and then having an absolutely huge one inside the jungles. Now, the only reason I can't see both of these happening at once is because I think if they're going to add something as big as a huge jungle temple or desert temple, they'd want to have more focus on one rather than the other, just so it doesn't draw away from either. But I still think either one of these getting updated would be an absolute benefit in an archaeology update. But whether the jungle or desert temple gets updated, what should they actually have inside them? Well, one idea I have is actually something called jaded armor. There'd be absolutely no way in crafting it, so the only way you'd be able to find it is inside one of these temples. In terms of protection and how long they'd last, they'd be pretty much exactly the same as iron. The one big difference between this and iron is the fact that if you put any one of these on, it'll actually give you a buff of regeneration, much similar to how the turtle helmet actually gives you a tiny bit of water breathing. So that way going into battle or anything like that, you'd be a little bit more protected then. Another benefit in my mind would have to be around undead mobs, because if you wear a mob head and you're around that specific type of mob, they don't actually notice you straight away. What if Jaded Armor has sort of a similar thing, where they can actually get much closer to you and not realize that you are not, the person you're actually meant to be? I don't know, there's a lot of things you can do with Jaded Armor, and those are just a few ideas of mine. Speaking of having plenty of ideas, the Sniffer is a new mob coming in, which actually has quite a big potential in adding in quite a number of new types of seeds and things like that. We already know that the Sniffer is planning to add in new decorative plants, but what if it also has the ability on adding in new types of seeds for new types of plants, or forgotten plants we've not had in hundreds and hundreds of years? One plant I know the devs have wanted to add in like literally forever is corn, and why don't the Sniffers find, I don't know, corn seeds, or wherever you actually plant in seeds? Or this is stretching it a little bit, but what if they add in like really old types of plants that's not been seen in like hundreds of years? Take for instance, blue carrots. Yeah. Way back, like I think before the 17th century, there were carrots that was actually blue. If they were added to Minecraft, they wouldn't do anything differently, but they would aesthetically look a little bit different. Alongside that, why don't Sniffers have the ability on digging up like non-renewable items too, such as, I don't know, dead bushes or something like that? Okay, that's a really niche thing, but still. Also, the devs did say that Sniffers are only getting decorative plants, but when you really think about it, would that just make the Sniffer sort of a useless mob? I mean, unless if this decorative plant was like really useful in some ways, like how often would you really go out to reincarnate an undead mob? How many people would really bring back an extinct mob knowing that the only thing you'd really get out of it is sort of a niche decorative plants? So I don't know, just having a few more uses, even though those uses are still fairly niche, would still make this mob a little bit more interesting, a little more useful. Speaking of useless things, the bundle at the moment is kind of in that position. And a lot of people, myself included, think that the bundle might actually be a good way in actually fixing, or at least seriously helping the inventory issues. And one way you can actually use the bundle is actually putting it in your offhand, so you're sacrificing your offhand, but in exchange you're getting an entire separate row for inventory space. That way then you can have 45 separate slots for your inventory, which means the inventory issues would be pretty diminished at that one point. It wouldn't be completely gone, there'd still be a whole lot more to do, but for the most part, it would make handling the inventory quite a lot easier then. And again, it'd be super balanced. Like, you'd have to sacrifice your offhand in order to get yourself quite a decent amount more space in exchange for holding food or shields or totems or something like that from here. But for now, let me know how good or bad my ideas are, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.